Of course, we know it is very, very strong. Even now, there are ways to counter, of course. You have the Spirit Vessels, you have the Venomancer picks that we've been seeing a lot to counter out those Morphlings a bit, but well, we'll see. LGD, their third pick up now. They'll go into the Tide
Ooh.
Hunter. It's another popular pick in China right now. They do seem to really enjoy playing this Tide. Then again, though, that is an offlane hero, so now you kind of ask the question again. It must be a POS 5 Rubik and POS 4
Yeah,
Clock. Yeah, that
yeah.
has to
I
be the
think
case.
it's definitely just X Nova on the Rubik straight up here, and FY on the clock. You don't really have the flexibility for a mid Rubik this game. Plus, again, it's X Nova. He plays a mean Rubik anyway, so
Right.
I think that's fine. I think the Tide Hunter is a bit tricky to draft into nowadays. Like, we've seen a couple of games with a Tide before. Again, it's for China. It's
Oh.
much more What? Uh, okay. Yeah,
See,
train of thought was kicked out for a bit.
now I truly believe you're smiling behind that webcam that isn't on right now, John. See,
Oh yeah.
John's a very, very big fan of Undying. A very, very big fan. Of course, you complain to me non-stop on a daily basis about how Valve never buffs Undying to a point where it can be viable. How do you feel about Undying in this current draft right now? Do you think it's a good pick, John?
A good pick. Tricky to say. It looks decent. Like you're gonna be making that Tide Hunter a bit squishier. The Clockwork and Rubik don't really clear out the Tombstone fast if you position it well. The Undying doesn't do too much against PL. Like if you get a good Soul Rip, if you identify the right PL, I guess that's something you can try to pump out. But I think the PL is a really good response here from LGD. You are picking PL into Shaker.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of teams do that, and it is a really coin flip kind of play. Like there are a lot of ways for the PL to dodge. At the same time, you get caught by that shaker, you're dead if you get slammed. So it's a 50-50. Really depends on how far LGD can push that hero to its limits. I think CDEC, they've got great responses. They've got the Lesh on top with the shaker and dying just to get all the heroes squishier. I think it's solid. It's very fast tempo from CDEC. They cannot afford to stall this game out because the scalability from LGD is off the charts. CDEC has tighter timers here. They're going to have to play a really fast game. Fortunately, the Undying enables that really well as a support, so it's a pretty tied-in draft from CDEC. LGD, you have to be careful with the pace that CDEC's bringing here. You have to time yourself around a Ravage early on, and you have to make sure that spell is maximized because we've seen a lot of Tides just kind of sit there, just kind of farm up, never really go for even a single target pick off with Ravage, which is really important when you're stalling out for your PL here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, CLGD, they get rid of the AM as their last ban out now, and CDEC, one more ban for them. And, John, I always kind of say, casters shouldn't read Twitch chat when they're casting, but I gotta say, I had a quick glimpse and someone asked if we're sponsored by some kind of toothpaste company. You really do have very nice teeth, John. I gotta tell you, I'm very jealous. That's why that's why I've let the beard grow out, so people don't go to my teeth. They just look at the beard and they're like, "Oh, it's a terrible beard, terrible."
No,
But
it's a majestic beard. What do you mean? It's
not
majestic.
no,
People
it's
love
not,
it.
John. It just quarantine happened and I decided, screw it. I got lazy. That's the truth of it. This isn't my actual normal beard. This is like 2 weeks of me being lazy. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Interesting to note as well, Mike. I don't think either of us pointed this out. There's only 1 second of reserve time left on LGD. So they're gonna
Yes.
have to be pretty quick in their last pick. Surprisingly enough, we've slid through the entire ban phase now, all the bans, and Morphling is still in the pool for CDEC. If they do want to play the Shirker Morphling now, does it work with their draft? No, absolutely not. The timings are way off because they have to play really quick. But if they wanted that kind of answer, I guess they could go for it. They go with the Slark instead. So you do have something that stays in the Tide Hunter lane fairly fine. It's still not a very easy lane, but Slark will enjoy eating through a tanky hero like that. Up against the PL, it's a bit tricky. PL does have a lot of ways of just kind of dancing around the Slark there, so something to be cautious about. But for CDEC, but ties into that fast pace, right? Like Slark is a hero that comes online really quick. can start fighting early, doesn't take too much farm. So CDEC do want to close this one out fast, and LGD, they just take that steady Void Spirit mid. You know,
Not
it
just any
gives them
Void
some
Spirit,
decent
John.
pacing.
This is Somnus Void Spirit. We've seen this
Yeah.
before. He is a very, very scary Void Spirit player. I believe one time we saw him not have a good game. But we've seen this many, many times from Somnus, and he does tend to really kind of perform beyond his means with this hero. He is very, very good at it. It is actually going to be FY's Rubik, by the way. Xnova will take the POS 5 Clockwork, which, I personally would rather see it in the POS 4, but I can't quite blame them for giving FY his godlike Rubik. So I'm not going to question it. Of course, they are up against an Earthshaker, so it makes enough sense. And if I'm frank as well, John, generally speaking, you'd assume the Slark should do well up against that Tide Hunter. But if we're talking Tide Rubik, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, that one is definitely a bit trickier to handle. Just a lot of minus damage coming out for Slark, so you're not going to have an easy time farming there. You're going to really have to try to make that lane work. So we'll see whether or not CDEC will opt for lane swaps. I'm really curious whether or not CDEC will try to force a tri-lane out as well. Again, they want to play pretty fast. They don't want LGD to have too much breathing room. They have to maximize that Undying support. Because we've seen what happens when you reach minute 15 without too much impact on the Undying. You're a liability. It is really just a major EXP sink. So Victoria has to really push that early advantage hard on that hero.
Oh, that they will. See how it all pans out. Game 1 of this best of 3, and I'm excited for this series, John. I'm not going to lie. It's a very, very exciting series between these two. You talked about it last time around. CDEC got the better of LGD. So we'll see if they can do it again in this series. LGD, of course, looking to try and beat them out this time if they can. See how it all pans out. The good luck puns are there from CDEC. Xnova will simply give a tip over to XM in recognition.
Nice little tip swaps. Very even trade so far for both sides.
Hey, how can
Does look like...
Don't worry about the game for now, John. How can we forget? The bundles are out today, sir.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot because, well, I ran out of cash, Mike.
Did you
so I don't
really?
want to think about it. No, I'm just waiting for a way of getting more. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Extra bundles would be nice.
Sure.
But, we are playing by the rules. 2 bundles per person. Maybe.
Well, I am. I've paid for mine already, John. I don't know about you. I know you can be a little bit sneaky when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't even know why you'd want the levels anyway. You've got like
I'm not sure.
1 billion levels already. I'm not sure what you need the bundles for at this stage.
Hey man, I need a longer sub. I've got to show the longer sub.
That's fair
It's
enough.
not the same if it's a shorter sub.
That is very true. I haven't even checked my sub recently. I just upgraded them today, and I don't even know how long it is now. Still.
Gotta make sure it's working right. Make sure you mapped it to the hotkey so it's out there. But yeah, it's a good day if you want to burn some cash.
Which I already did. Thank you, Gaben. XM, Somnus. Going to be in that mid lane. So the Leshrac versus the Void Spirit. Not a matchup we get to see too often in this current meta. Could be very dangerous for either though, right? Like XM should arguably have somewhat an advantage early on. But then later on, once you've hit that 6 mark, it can get a bit dicey.
Yeah, there's a lot of damage that can come out of Somnus. The one thing in this matchup is that the Resonant Pulse isn't going to be blocking too much of XM's damage. As long as he lands his spells, should be able to trade fairly evenly here early on for the Leshrac.
That he should. CFY up that top lane, just pulling a creep wave away, and you can't quite blame him for this. Like, they do need to really set the creep equilibrium here. I kind of briefly mentioned that Rubik Tide is kind of broken as a laning combo. Even up against that Slark, who should theoretically have the advantage up against that Tide Hunter. But you want a few levels first on the Tide, right? You can't really just go at that Slark at level 1 and expect to win the matchup.
Yeah, it's going to take some EXP to get that going, and In the end, I guess this kind of movement is slightly helping out Victoria. I mean, he gets to soak a little bit more EXP by himself. It's not much, mind you, and the Undying's progression's even more important, I'd say, for CDEC compared to LGD getting the levels on their tide. It's just so timing sensitive that the moment you fall behind on this Undying, it's really hard to have an influence anymore.
Okay. I mean, I agree with you on that. It's, he's gonna need something, this Undying. Bot lane, of course, you'll see James and SRF there. They're up against X-Nova and Chalice. X-Nova gonna get chased down. A nice fish route from James. I don't know if they have enough damage yet, but X-Nova still trying to run. Gets the cogs out, but no. SRF did have enough damage with the sticky napalm stacks. And with that, first blood will go to the way of CDEC.
Yeah, it's a pretty darn good start for them, just having that additional win on the bot lane, and this is really one of the things with a Clockwork 5. In a dual lane like PL, you don't really do much, and that's something the Batrider can really abuse, just with a sticky napalm span. You can't really run away as the clock.
I agree with that. I mean, I spam clock a lot, John. Sticky napalm sucks. It's kind of impossible to do much as this Clockwork in this lane. Like, he's going to go ahead and pull the small cap now, which is probably the best you can do. In fact, he's just going to stack it up. But I just... You definitely can't contest this lane with SRF James. Like, it's purely just the Batrider that's going to make it impossible for the Clockwork to do anything. We'll see what X-Nova does about this, though. He's going to go for the pull now. James will block it off and force the neutral camp his way. Of course, SRF will take that as let's go on Chalice. And Chalice will take a bit of damage from that Firefly. You didn't really have the Fisher to lock him in anyway. And now, X-Nova, seeing both those abilities being used, wants to harass a bit with Battery Assault, but again, that sticky napalm, the turn rate slow is just way too harsh on the Clockwork.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's really hard for X-Nova to trade too favorably, and you've got that early bottle in SRF, so he's pretty much not going to have mana issues in this lane, and be able to dominate it as hard as he wants to, and X-Nova is just going to have to stare.
Uh-oh. We have our first bounty placed, though. SRF, he'll have to watch his back. Chalice will get his courier at least. That's one way to start. Brown Boots going down for SRF for the next minute and 15 seconds. Which is somewhat detrimental to the Batrider, considering he kind of relies on mobility to kill his victims. At least for a minute and a half, you know you haven't got that as a problem. And well, X-Nova chasing SRF down now. Trying to contest him a little bit here, but ultimately won't really be able to get much damage out. Meanwhile, mid lane, XM could be in trouble. FY, Fisher doesn't connect on the Rubik, but they'll pop the Edict. Now Aether are coming in, they get the Split Earth off. XM, no, he didn't even get it off. He gets it off now, but it doesn't connect. And so FY will just run out of there. And I don't think there was really much kill potential regardless of whether the Earthshaker was around or not. It seems as though XM probably would have survived that gank attempt there from FY. But now, you might actually get something done, because James is running up the staircase. Old 11's currently pulling a creep wave away. This is actually a very awkward scenario, because Victoria's trying to punish Old 11 for getting this creep pull off. James is blocking the staircase he needs to run down, and FY is right behind James.
Yeah, it's not a great spot to be in, that's the Shaker. Doesn't have enough mana for a Fisher as well, so it's just going to be the enchant. Not quite sure if there's enough damage here, but it's not going to be a pretty time for the Shaker right now, as soon as the unpause is there. There you go.
Well, I don't know, because they've got the creep wave as well. I'm not sure who this favors. Like, James, he's going to stun him up once with the enchant totem, now with the body blocks as well. Old 11, still a very tanky target with level 2 Kraken Shell. Like, bot lane, we'll see SRF, he does go down. So they do end up finding that bounty and getting the kill there onto that Batrider. And top lane, well, that Tidehunter, he's just fine. He's still pulling the creep wave. He gets it over to the large camp and just going to be very efficient with the way he farms this.
Yeah, it's a lot to give away towards a Tidehunter early on, and this is what happens when CDEC rotates their supports. You can find kill ops when you leave that Batrider alone, and that's something LGD punishes quite nicely.
They can't just allow this to happen, though. Like, Old 11 getting this much farm, it's not going to spell good news for CDEC if he can keep this up. And well, that's the whole point of the Undying, right? Is to just dominate the lane. But he's level 2 on that Undying, and it's just questionable how much he can do now.
Yeah, it's not looking too good for Victoria early on. I think that big factor for this is that FY is just not staying in that lane. So there's not much a Undying can really do against just one hero, and it's working out for the better as FY gets to find EXP while he's running around. You're forcing the supports to stick together from CDEC's side, slowing down their progression massively. You freed up the bot lane as well.
He's in trouble. He's been lifted up, thrown down. A lot of damage being dealt here. Somnus gets the other Astral Step, but a nice Soul Rip out from Victoria will save the day. Now the Split Earth will miss, and they might just turn around once again. X-Nova showed up on the clock, but I don't think they can. All their spells are on cooldown, and FY maybe just overextending a little bit, but we'll be able to walk out of there. Now Somnus going to be in trouble. XM with the Pulse Nova just burning him out and eventually does get the kill. They should be able to get the trade here, but no, the fish is out. The Soul Rip, it won't be enough. They'll lose the Leshrac, but they're going to find a hell of a lot more for their trouble. Or maybe not. X-Nova holding everyone in place, and James will also go down, and ultimately Somnus, he committed a buyback to get back in there. I don't know if that was a bad play, though. He's going to get a creep wave. He's going to get more XP. He did get a kill for himself. And this early on, buybacks aren't that expensive.
Yeah, I think in the end, the only amount Somnus lost for all his effort there with the buyback was just about 5 gold, so very worthwhile for him. And SRF down bot, left alone, is just gone as well.
It's at this point now where you don't sit in the lane anymore as that clockwork, right? You just kind of hide through the tree line. And whenever you see that Batrider in a susceptible position, without Firefly, you just run in.
It's working out quite well for LGD, this kind of greedy support duo. And that's because they've been able to just have FY stand around without helping his offlaner. CDEC's been forced to stick as tree. They've not been able to maximize these early aggressive cores, although Somnus...
Oh, he's getting caught out here. Nice Fisher. He will Astral Step away. Old 11, he just comes in from the high ground, has level 6 up, he just hasn't skilled Ravage yet. He's holding on to it, now using those wand charges, but he is surrounded. He will go down, and now they also got X-Nova. CDEC very quick to rotate. Do find themselves 2 very nice kills, and... Well, again, the Tide, he had that skill point, he just didn't want to commit. And ultimately, it won't matter now, but you may have been able to turn that with that Ravage.
Oh yeah, like you had a lot of backup there from LGD, and they just don't want to jump in. I think just having the Slark rotate in as well does kind of give you a bit more though. He misses out on some farm, and
Victoria, he was there a second ago. He just disappeared on us. I think Somnus played a magic trick right there, and well, poor old Victoria. I mean, he reached level 4 at least, but that is not fun to watch if you are CDEC.
Oh, definitely not. You can see Victoria's even going for the double Sage Mask. Looking into perhaps a Necronomicon just to give himself a little bit of EXP boost and some laning, some push presence down the line, but you've missed the window with the Undying. We're reaching the 10-minute mark. You've got 4 assists, which isn't too bad. At the same time, you know, your progression has been pretty slow. So CDEC, they've got to find a way to play around a lot more aggressively, especially since they've got the ults up on 2 of their cores. They can kind of go for a pick-off if they wanted to at this point.
Chalice, he's being very aggressive now into SRF bot lane. We'll just back off, just trying to force SRF away from this lane. It's gone to the point now where Chalice just out-levels the Batrider by 1. And he's got teammates coming in as well. X-Nova and Somnus are just around the corner, waiting for their opportunity to make the jump onto SRF. Does he know? He seems to be, well, he does know. They're right underneath an observer ward right now. They'll take the bounty rune off SRF. It's the best they can do, as they can't really hide themselves unless they're smoked. And so they'll go back to that mid lane now, where I believe FY has been just freely farming away, soaking XP for himself. Has hit that level 6 mark, and well, he tried to steal that Fisher. He got Enchant Totem instead. But this is that point now where LGD, they could feel like they could start making some pretty big plays, like especially with that level 6 on the Rubik. You'd be feeling a lot more confident. In fact, X-Nova is very confident. He just jumps in onto James, but they back off immediately after forcing 1 TP. FY gets the Fisher, and that'll be the disengage.
Yeah, that's really worthwhile because you force out the ult usage
Somnus?
from Victoria and the Tombstone.
Somnus very aggressive, just jumping back in onto XM. I agree though, that Tombstone usage as well is just great to see here for LGD, because now you feel a lot more comfortable going into that next team fight, if it is going to be anytime soon.
It's going to be a bit trickier for Victoria to sit there and support his team. You even have old 11 down mid as well, so they really want to take this mid tier 1. They're also giving a lot of space towards their PL while all of this is happening, so a lot of efficiency here from LGD's movement.
Well, you can't fight this either if you're CDEC. You know old 11 probably has Ravage. He's moving in as well, just threatening with his position. Victoria backs off, but now Somnus just kind of pokes and prods at them. They won't engage with the Ravage quite yet. They'll hold out. However, X-Nova gets a hook shot, and he does get SRF. He had the Firefly going, however, so he's just going to make a run for it. But Somnus is going to be on the chase. CDEC, can they fight this? Ravage comes out, connecting on 4 heroes, and now FY does kill off XM. Looks like Arme is going to start going in with the Shadow Dance, but that's about to wear off. He'll go after X-Nova, but he's been lifted up as well. There's the Fissure coming in, but Chalice is there on the PO, and they will get Arme. And that Tombstone also going to be fed the way of Chalice, an extra 175 gold for the PL, and he'll just walk himself out.
Yeah, that's pretty big trade going the way of LGD. Chalice with the last-minute walk-in to find the cleanup. Just gets so much more gold in the process. Already pretty much has the Yasha up, just 200 gold away from the recipe, so the PL is going to start hitting hard. He has some pretty decent stats with the Hood of Defiance on top. You're not going to have an easy solution towards this PL. He's been given way too free a lane.
That he has. And Arme, now, I mean, I believe he has his Shadow Blade on the way. So you've got that going for you. But apart from that, he's not necessarily lacking farm, but he's just a little bit behind. You don't want to be in that position as the Slark. You need to be able to be aggressive in these earlier stages. And now they're even thinking about diving Arme. Eventually forcing the rotation out from Victoria. Shadowblade's up. He'll commit straight away and start scouting out for his team. And they are going to find Somnus and Old 11. Somnus, he does get hit a few times, but will just walk away. But CDEC do seem to be kind of not necessarily desperate, but they definitely understand that they need to be the aggressors here in this early game.
Yeah, again, their lineup has a pretty tight timer. They don't want to drag this game out too long. They're going to lose efficacy on the Undying. Even the Leshrac really tapers off because you see BKBs fly out, you see a pipe fly out, damage is mitigated. So CDEC have to play fast. They are still waiting for maybe the Blink Dagger and James, but that's all you really need to wait for before committing for bigger engagements here from the Dire side. They've been sticking together quite well, just haven't really found that opportunity for a big fight.
Oh, Arme, he pops the Invis again. He's going to run down towards that mid lane, but Somnus and FY have already kind of left. They're looking towards XM on that Leshrac.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
They do have wards in that triangle, the Dire side, so they're very well aware of these rotations out from LGD. They'll smoke up though. X-Nova. Pop on for the team. There might be a counter smoke coming out from CDEC, and there is. You've got that echo up on James, but you don't have the blink yet. SRF looking for a lasso. He blinks in. That's not going to be good news, though. He gets blown up straight away. A decent fissure out from James, but is it going to matter? Probably not. XM's being chased down. He will also go down. X-Nova does finally die, but it won't matter if everyone else gets out of here. Somnus will lose his life. Chalice still trying to make a run for it. Old 11 still hasn't committed Ravage, by the way. He still has it up, and he's trying to turn this team fight. James cops the gush. Old 11 wants this kill. Soul Rip's going to be there from Victoria, but yeah, Ravage just committed. Just get the kill. They'll leave Victoria be. And ultimately, it is still a positive trade out from the side of LGD. Obviously, they don't really want to lose Somnus like that, but finding two cores and a support never really hurts.
Oh yeah, it's still a pretty nice win for LGD. Chalice is around to soak a lot of those kills, gets to live by a fraction of his HP. You could argue the same thing happened for Ame. His progression towards the Silver Edge is pretty decent. It's not as fast as the farm you're seeing on Chalice, but that's really down to the fact that the Slark has been a lot more active on the map, been a lot more aggressive in movement, and doesn't really have any fast way of clearing out camps besides his spells. So it's just a bit slower for Ame. He is clearing out the bot tier 1 by himself, but you see LGD are clumping up for the top tier 1 in exchange.
And they'll try to get started on it. Chalice should be able to find it just fine. Meanwhile, mid lane, XM playing around there with Old 11. Might get started onto SRF, but he gets the lasso first. Still, Victoria, he does die. However, Somnus just melts under the damage of XM. Now Old 11 doesn't really want to be there anymore, but he has no choice in the matter. He is also going to die. And CDEC, I mean, they bought back on the Undying, but finding 3 big pickoffs like that, again, you're not going to mind.
Yeah, it's a great trade for CDEC, even with that buyback. It's on an Undying. You don't really mind at this point if you're Victoria. And you are keeping that net worth lead LGD has in fairly good check. It's just down to 2k now. Not the biggest trade. You still have a lot of room to grow on your cores though, especially that Slark. Still just about a k behind on Ame, but once you start rolling on the Slark, once you have that Silver Edge, which is basically there, he just buys the recipe out, you should be able to get a lot more control here. LGD have to be a bit careful with how far forward they go. I mean, Somnus didn't offer something like the Ewells to help him out in escapes. Did go for the fast blade mail, so once he's caught out, he's pretty much gone for the most part.
We'll see, Nick. They'll now have that Silver Edge up onto Ame, so suddenly this Tide Hunt is not going to be that big of an issue anymore. However, speaking of that Tide, Old 11, again in that mid lane, is chasing down Victoria. Now this is a dieback on this Undying, so it's really well worth just rushing in for it. They are going to get it. And they might even try for that tier 2 mid tower. What they've got to be afraid of, however, is that blink on James. It's going to be a very, very dangerous item on this Earthshaker. They don't know yet. He just picked it up. We'll see how he gets to use it first. You would have loved to see them still just pushing into that tier 2 mid just after you bought a blink dagger on that ES, but he won't get that lucky. He'll have to wait till LGD show up again.
Yeah, it's a pretty smart pull back from LGD. They're still building up in their own course. Yeah, Chalice is very close towards that defusal. Has the SNY up. So a lot of stats up and running for RPL. Even swaps into the Nether Shawl as well, just to ensure that you have that additional magic armor. Keep yourself safe.
XM. Echo Slam was committed as well. They just want to burst down Old 11. It's a long stun out from FY, and now X-Nova, he hooks in straight up that Earthshaker. James gonna get taken down very, very quickly. You'd still call that worth if you're CDEC, I guess. It's a support for a core. You did commit that Echo, but now Ame, he's going to go for more. Lasso's going to be out. On to Somnus. Can he get himself out of here in time? Not quite. He's been perma-stunned. He'll die, but Chalice jumps in. FY now going down. Chalice, a bit of a sitting duck right now, needs to make a run for it, but can he? He'll try and fight this out a little bit, waiting for that Doppel to be back up. He's still burning alive though. 1 second left, but no, he won't get it off in time, and now poor old X-Nova, he was the only one left, and he is going to go down like the rest of his team. CDEC will team wipe them.
It's a really big swing for CDEC's side. Just a bit too aggressive there from LGD, even without that Shaker. Without the Tide for wider AoE control, you do kind of lose out when everyone's clumped up like that, especially on this PL. Going for the SNY meant that you had no self-purge with something like the Manta style to rush out, so you are a bit more vulnerable on that control, on the amped up damage CDEC has. Have to be a bit careful there with how far forward you push Chalice at this point in the game.
Yeah, it is true. And Chalice may feel like he can fight so early on with that SNY, but it's just clearly not the case up against the amount of damage potential you have from CDEC right now. It's just too much. They've just got to wait out these power spikes of the Undying and Leshrac, I think, LGD. before they really bring Chalice into these fights. Well, we'll wait it out and see. For now, LGD, they're rotating his 3 up towards that top lane now to go after SRF. Poor old SRF just constantly getting targeted here by LGD. Rocket Flare will reveal he has nowhere to hide in that section of the tree line. But he will go for a TP, and X-Nova, what a hook shot! He knew exactly where he was! That was outside of the Rocket Flare vision, but he knew there was only one other place to hide. He wasn't wrong.
It's a very on-point kill for X-Nova. Nice free core pickup for LGD. Does give him a little bit of an injection, but you do still see CDEC pull ahead in net worth now. You've got that 3k lead on their side this time around, and you have caught up very well, especially on XM. XM was just pretty behind for a long time from his mid matchup. Now he's at number 3 net worth, tied up with Chalice. He's had his Bloodstone up and running for a while, has 18 charges, is going straight for BKB. That's going to allow the Lesh to maintain a bigger presence in these fights. Doesn't need to worry about the control coming out from LGD.
No, that he won't. I mean, the only person you really got to worry about at that point is Chalice, but you know he can't really deal with you anyway at the moment as that Leshrac. He'll be just fine with the BKB up. PSG.LGD, once you do see that BKB up, you've just got to take a back seat and try to just out-farm them on the side of CDEC. But we will see a team fight starting soon. There will be a smoke up once again from CDEC. They understand the position of LGD right now, and they're going to try and take advantage of it. Of course, the outpost was taken by LGD, which is exactly how they know. X-Nova going to be the first one to get spotted. Victoria, smoke broken. They'll get the lasso off, but FY is there with the lift. Tombstone dropped, and they are all just going to back out. FY, Flame Break going to connect. He is probably going to be in a bit of danger here. Luckily for him, he does actually have the Dark Pact, so he can purge off all these slows that are coming his way. But they definitely just don't have much turn potential right now, and that means CDEC will take that tier 1 top tower.
Yeah, that does widen CDEC's lead in the end. They find a nice free support, not the biggest pickup in the world. They take a tower out as well to give them back a little bit more map control. Does keep the map fairly even, everyone losing out in their tier 1s already, so good control coming out from both sides. You still see that lead widen for CDEC, but they're going to need a little bit more. You've got the Diffusal up on Chalice now. That's a massive damage spike for PL, although.
Oh, old 11, yeah, he's been caught out here. Mate, I don't believe he actually got the Silver Edge strike off, so he didn't really get the break, and now they'll lift him up. Ravage committed as well. Here comes Chalice. He does have that Diffusal Blade up, but there's that Shadow Dance. Now instead, jumping onto XM, but the Pulse Nova gets turned on. X-Nova forced the hook shot in, trying to cogs him away from the tide, but can't quite do so, and now James jumping in with the Echo as well onto that PL. It's not going to be enough. Chalice is still dancing around, but the rest of his team are dying around him. Somnus trying to run, gets netted up, gets Split Earth as well. He's in big trouble, but Chalice is in even bigger trouble right now. They're still trying to fight back. It's a 2v5 situation. Can they actually do it? Chalice, no. He will end up dying, and Somnus has no other option but to just run. Oh, that Split Earth as well, breaking the trees that were blocking his way. He'll get an Aether Remnant off and just Astral Step, but there's the Fissure coming out now from Chalice, and CDEC will be able to pretty much get the full team wipe here. Somnus, however, turning around back onto James, but it is not going to be enough. And X-Nova, I mean, the fight's gone on so long, he's respawned.
Yeah, it's really tricky now for LGD. You've given a lot of gold away to CDEC. Every single time these engagements happen, there's always the threat of a very fast push from XM. Now, that took way too long for too much pressure on that tier 2 top. But you're at the point with the Lesh, and even a Batrider with those BKBs, that there's not much worry of them standing in front. Your PL is not nearly big enough to survive through that opening that CDEC makes for themselves. And you don't quite have enough on the rest of your heroes to really make up for it. We're not seeing an Ags Rush, for example, coming out from Somnus to get additional silence out. So it is trickier for LGD to keep the control on their end. CDEC has been very on point with kind of forcing these fights to their favor here.
Oh, mate. Finds X-Nova. Hook shot, not going to land on anything either. Not sure what he was trying to hook shot onto, but it wasn't going to work out. Still trying to run away. SRF just popped the BKB. X-Nova, he's still juking them out somehow. Does eventually die. And, well, I guess you kind of just use the 10-second BKB charge for the sake of a pos 5 clock. So it's not all bad for LGD, but there's another smoke now out from CDEC, and they're going to run back in. Hoping that LGD's let their guard down a little bit. There's a double damage there as well onto the Arme. So that Slark's hitting like an absolute truck right now. But they'll go for the Roshan instead.
Yeah, it's a much easier pickup for them. Going to be melting really fast. LGD could try to contest, but it's just gone. They scan a bit too late.
They can make the run up, but yeah, it is too late. Unless X-Nova somehow got a hook shot off in time, but he's way too far away. And so, Silver Edge used again. Of course, Arme underneath the Sentry Ward will now realize there is one there. Just keep taking his time, just doing what he has to do as a Slark to be as effective as possible. And I mean, Chalice has just room to grow right now, in all honesty. Like, he's just nowhere near the point where he has to be able to contest back up against the side of CDEC.
Yeah, that's one thing CDEC has done quite well. They are pacing themselves really great. They should be aiming for a few more objectives here. You really don't want to give any openings towards LGD, but you take a look at even the itemization of SRF, he's going straight for the Ags on the Bat Rider just to have that additional lasso target, just looking for alt control, and that's really the way this lineup ought to play. Now you see the effect of XM, they just melt towers.
Radiant's bottom tower.
That they will. Goes down very easily. Of course, CDEC, they don't want to slow down. They understand it's their time to go, and they're going to keep going. Arme just straight back up towards that north of the map, up to the top lane.
Top tower is under attack.
Might run into Chalice. No, he'll turn around now and find Somnus. He's got to be a little bit careful. He's a bit surrounded here by the side of LGD. They could turn, but they may assume his team is right behind him, so they'll leave him be for now. Arme continuing to try and bait them forward. Now the rest of the team is coming in. SRF, he'll show up. BKB up, gets the lasso straight onto Somnus. Can he survive this? He's still pounced up there, but he gets the dissimulation off and will just get himself out. Or maybe he doesn't. SRF's still going. Meanwhile, in the backlines, a Ravage committed. James, he'll be the one to die. They'll go back in though. CDEC wanting to try and go after Chalice, who does jump onto Arme. Arme just man-fighting back the best he possibly can. They just want to keep fighting. Pounce now onto Chalice. He's falling very, very low, but another doppel out. He'll run towards the north, but now X-Nova goes down. What did FY steal? He got the Pulse Nova, but that's not going to be enough to change this team fight. So Chalice will keep running. He has another doppel up in just this, right now. He's just holding on to it. He'll use it. Victoria was waiting in the right spot, and he's going to die anyway. He just can't get out of this. CDEC is just one step ahead every time.
Yeah, and this is where LGD starts to fall apart a bit. It's a massive spike for CDEC. LGD is just not itemized enough. The PL needs a lot more room to grow. Doesn't have any defensive item beyond that Hood of Defiance, and it's not enough to stop that damage coming out from CDEC anymore. That Hood of Defiance, even with the pipe of Oli 11, Chalice just melts, and you're not getting enough control out here, so LGD need to find a way to build up in their cores. They need to get Chalice some space to farm up, work towards his items, and just kind of accept the fact that CDEC can. Oh.
Yeah, he may have overstepped the boundaries a little bit. He needs his team behind him, and well, he thought he was alone up at that top lane, but it wasn't the case. Somnus gets the kill.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice pickup, and that's how LGD can grow big. They still have strong single target pickoff. You have to respect the power LGD has here, CDEC. You can't really afford to just show yourself one by one. If you're going to sit back and farm, do it in relative safety, and looks like the rest of the team is getting that done. You're looking at a very fast pickup here for Ame into the Satanic on the Slark, so he's just looking to stand and fight all day long. No issues for the Slark once this is up and running. The Ags on SRF is still about 2k gold away, 2 parts away for him, so once that's up again, double lasso targets, just so much control that can fly in, and
Ah, mate, just gonna run straight into FY. Of course, gets the pounce off, though. Forstaff's gonna be there in time. FY actually getting saved by that Fisher blocker. James now blinks out of there. Chalice will start going in. There's gonna be the BKB pop by SRF. He'd love a lasso right now and does get one onto X Nova, but nobody's gonna be able to capitalize off that, so he'll just pop his blade mail and walk away. Now Victoria getting very low on that Undying. He's completely out of mana, but a great Fisher block out from James. It's not gonna be enough, however. Now Somnus going in with the Dissimulate. Who does he want? He just jumps away. Arme now joining the team fight as well, trying to go after Chalice on that PL, but there's the Ravage, there's the hook shot. X-Nova splits up the team fight with the Cogs now. James can't get in there. He echoes nothing. But they still end up getting the team fight win as X-Nova on old Levin already ends up dying. But it's Chalice and Somnus. They're trying to fight back there with FY in the backlines. They'll go straight onto James. However, they do get the kill on Somnus, and now James will die. But XM, he's on a rampage. He just burns them alive at the stake. Oh, XM, it's the Leshrak's the dream, John. He just stands there with Pulse Nova on. And they just keep fighting around him.
they just can't focus on XM. They're forced to look for the other targets, try to force a numbers advantage, but they can't burn the rest of the team fast enough. And XM picks himself a very easy rampage on the Lesh, and of course opens up the high ground for this push, and it's a very fast push coming out from CDEC.
Oh, that it is. Of course, Diabolic Edict is still a thing. It's just because the hero is not a meta doesn't mean he can't burn through towers very, very quickly. He's even holding on to the second Edict right now. He might... You can't really go for any other racks because both tier 2s are still available in both lanes. They'll just hold on to it and back off. But they got one lane of racks now, and they are looking really good, CDEC. 14k net worth ahead. Dota Plus. It wasn't quite their way, but about 10 minutes ago it kind of switched the other way. CDEC now has the advantage by apparently 80%.
Yeah, it's down to the fact that CDEC has really widened gap here. You're still not seeing key items fly out from LGD. The Ags for Somnus is way too far off. The items in Chalice slow as well, and CDEC, they just smoke up. They want to find more. They want to keep building up.
They've got to just keep going. You've got such a big lead. There's no reason to give LGD a chance back into this game. You got all your ultis basically back up. Like, the only thing missing is the Echo, but that's up in 10 seconds. So, they'll loop around. They understand LGD is somewhere in their own triangle. SRF starts scouting out with that Firefly. Ultimately, they won't find anybody, however. This is all basically time that LGD is mostly hiding, apart from Somnus, who is still forcing out that top lane.
Dire's top tower is under
Arme almost does catch him out, however, on that Slark, so nice TP away from Somnus.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Speaking of Somnus, by the way, John, he is about to finish that Ags off.
Yeah, it's going to be really important for him to get that initial control on the backline, like just being able to maybe grab that Undying, maybe grabbing the Shaker as well. Does give LGD a lot more options in these fights. We've seen some really big ravages from Holy Levens, just the follow-up isn't quite enough. Just having that tool on hand for Somnus should help the cause massively. Still have to look at building up on the rest of the lineup though. Like Chalice is saving up for the Satanic into the Butterfly as well. That's the exact same build-up you're seeing from Ame, and he already has his Satanic up.
Ame. Do scout him out. Nice Aether Remnant to block that staircase, and now they know it's Ame. Still, smoke. Now going to come out. Another Aether Remnant. That's going to be an illusion on the Leshrak, and the Rocket Flare will give that away. Chalice on the front lines. James almost breaks the smoke, but doesn't quite get in range. LGD. They seem kind of confused as to what to do here. They're going to rotate the other way, back into their own triangle now, but you see CDEC, they've already got that high ground there. Well, they did have it. They've run down to farm the top lane, but the point is they have that position. And LGD, understanding this, won't try to force the play onto that triangle. Well, we'll take a second to get a creep wave there for Chalice. who is very, very close to having that Satanic up now. And once that Satanic's up, you could make the argument that they could actually win a team fight.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for Chalice to stay alive there. I think you're still gonna have damage issues though. On LGD's side, like just in the prolonged fights, they just can't burn through XM fast enough, and that's just going to be a constant factor here. As again, they don't really have defense to stop the Lush from doing damage.
Oh, here we go, Arme. Scouting out, X-Nova drops the sentry down, but there is that Aghanim Scepter lasso onto two heroes. It's Somnus and Chalice, but they want the Void Spirit first. Meanwhile, X-Nova just holding back Victoria on that Undying. They go back to that tier 2 tower, now back onto X-Nova. That Clockwork probably will be dead, but he does have buyback if he needs it. He won't, however. CDEC looks like they aren't really going to be in a position to feel comfortable enough to go for that high ground attempt again. But there is a Roshan up, and they do have a courier scouting that out, and that's exactly where they'll go.
It's going to be a fairly quick take from them. If LGD wants to go back in, they're going to have to commit the Ravager, buy back and clock and hookshot in, and they are just way too far to even contest it. They have to start moving now. Doesn't look like they're really aware, and that's going to be another Roche going to wave C.
Trying though, but moving in Somnus. He can't afford to give this away and he knows it. 8th Remnant not really going to latch anyone in. However, Lift is going to be there onto XM. Rocket Flare gives the vision. Watch for X-Nova. He'll look for a hookshot into that Roshan pit, or maybe just create all kinds of chaos to try and get that Aegis away. Roshan still low. Somnus is in, but XM, he does pick it up. Here comes X-Nova though, hooking in, but he doesn't want to be there any longer. X-Nova, or rather Chalice, trying to get out of there. Now the lasso as well, catching out another in the form of FY, and they will get a 3-for-0 trade on top of the fact that XM does have the Aegis up. Oh, and Old 11 by the way. Make that a 4th hero.
I mean, that whole movement really was just a bit too late there. Even if they were just trying to steal in. They're skipping the tier 2, going straight for the top set of racks first, so they just want to take what they can, try to force the buyback real quick, and can't blame them. Just gonna melt really fast either way.
It's not really a way to stop this unless you commit those buybacks, but even then Chalice doesn't have one, so you're really missing your main source of damage right now, and even then that main source of damage isn't really that high in comparison to CDEC. And so CDEC just going to play the safe game. They'll take that open lane of racks. Tier 2 will be taken out. No, they're going to go for all of it. XM, he's going in mid lane. Arme now has a butterfly on the way as well. It's really going to help his cause out, especially in forms of damage. And this will be mega creeps now, as LGD aren't in a position to try and defend at all. They're going to try. Somnus will jump in with that Aghanim Scepter, silencing them up, but it does nothing. They'll take the megas, they'll walk out. Chalice just respawns. And CDEC, they're going back in. They'll get a lasso straight onto Somnus, but there's the hook shot coming up from X-Nova. But he is dying so quick, and so is Somnus. He has no HP left. He'll walk back towards his fountain, but they've left Chalice behind. The PL in the middle of all the heroes of CDEC, and they'll call the GG. He doesn't have buyback, so there's no way they can defend these tier 4s. And CDEC, John, they're looking good this series, I'll tell you. 1-0 for them so far.
Yeah, really solid performance from CDEC. They ran their draft well. They managed to make Victoria's Undying really work out despite it having a slow start. LGD as well, I mean, they picked the PL into the Shaker. They picked the PL into the Lesh. There's a lot of stuff to deal with that PL in this game. LGD have to be careful when they go with a pick like that, and CDEC, if they keep that performance up, they should be able to clean out very nicely. We'll see whether or not LGD can really bounce back here in Game 2.
We'll find out very soon. It's MLP Dota and johnxfire, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes for that game number 2. We'll see you then.